Hi, so today I have here two microphones. The first is the Shure SM57 dynamic microphone that I'm holding here. It's been my sole microphone for the past 2 years. This is what I use to record the entirety of the bridge. It's pretty sturdy and reliable. It can handle a lot of abuse and is one of the best value microphones on the market as far as sound quality versus price goes. On the mic stand, which I'm currently recording into, is my new Sennheiser MK condenser mic. First, this is not a sponsored video in any way. I kind of wish it was since this mic cost a fortune. But I really needed to get one because both of these microphones function very differently. And today I want to talk about why every home studio needs to have one of both types of microphone. This is not a microphone demo video, nor am I going to be doing comparison tests. This is intended to be a quick instructional video on how different types of microphones can be used in a home studio and when to select one over the other. I'll start with the pros and cons of the dynamic microphone before getting into the condenser, but basically the strengths and weaknesses of each are incredibly complementary. So in situations where one microphone fails to do the job you want, the other one will almost certainly pick up the slack. So dynamic microphones are short range. They're not highly sensitive, meaning that they do a really good job rejecting background noise and excel at recording loud sounds right up close without clipping. There are two areas in particular where I think a dynamic mic is hands down the better choice. In a live setting, you can put this right in front of a band, especially a drum kit, next to giant PAs and not worry about feedback because it's primarily going to pick up the sound that's right in front of it. This is also a cardioid design microphone, meaning that it has directional sound rejection on top of the low inherent sensitivity from being a dynamic mic. For a very similar reason, dynamic mics are also really good for tracking vocals in a recording studio, especially harsh vocals where you really want to be up against the mic when you're singing. If you're using a condenser, one of the problems is it might pick up the backing track that's bleeding through your headphones, so you won't be able to play your track as loud as you need to record a tight performance. Basically, anytime you need to record something loud with minimal background noise, this is the way to go. For distorted guitars, guitar solos, I put this right up against the grill of my amp, and the tracks I get are always nice and even. The problem is when you have to record something quiet. Acoustic guitars and clean guitars are particularly troublesome with dynamic mics. It's really difficult to set up the mic in a way that's comfortable to play while keeping it close enough to get yourself a good recording. And you have to pluck consistently and also keep the distance of the guitar consistent. So you can't really move around while you're playing. Otherwise, the dynamics are going to be all over the place, requiring you to compress your track really heavily. And because the instrument's relatively quiet, when you increase the gain in post-processing after all the compression to match the volume that you need for your song, it's going to end up amplifying the noise, so you get this static hiss. That was a major problem in the recording of my last album, The Bridge. The vast majority of the retracking that I had to do was because of the acoustic and clean guitar tracks, and these were situations that would have been avoidable if I had a condenser mic at the time. As I said before, the two types of microphones are pretty complementary. So a condenser is very sensitive to low volume sounds and is not range limited. So I can set it up at a distance away and it'll record something that sounds like you're sitting in the same room. In fact, another example of this is right now, I'm not even facing the microphone as I'm talking. It's sitting off to the side, about a foot away from my face. If I were using the dynamic mic right now, my voice would sound very different, which goes to reason number 2 as to why I bought this mic. Aside from recording acoustics, especially my bass, I also got this condenser mic to improve the audio quality of my videos. There's an issue with the way my gear is set up that makes a dynamic microphone a poor choice for recording videos where I'm talking and playing guitar at the same time, basically most of my videos. My amp is off to the side right there at a considerable distance. It's about a meter away. It's the only place I can put it that reaches a usable power outlet. And the power cable is so that if I were to move the amp even an inch closer to me right now, they would yank out of the amp and not be usable. So in order to make a video where I'm playing my amped guitar and talking at the same time, I would have to split the distance when I place my microphone down so I can capture both equally. But with a dynamic mic, I also have to talk towards it. To face a camera at the same time requires me to sit back 1 meter, have the mic here angled 45 degrees between me and the amp, and what you end up with is a very compromised audio where both my guitar and the voice are going to sound very off. In my previous video, The Perfect Chord, I worked around that by using a dynamic mic just for my voice and recording my guitar directly through the audio interface. It was improvised very last minute, so I didn't set up the line properly, and there was a lot of noise, which I had to remove in post, which introduced some artifacts into the audio. Because I was recording direct, my amp was also muted, so I couldn't hear if I was playing properly, and I had to rely solely on the acoustic feedback of my electric guitar, which is kind of a gamble as to whether the final audio was going to be usable or not. So I made the purchase in hopes that future videos will sound better, especially when I'm amping my guitar up. Other places where a condenser might be good is if you're doing clean backing vocals and you want to sing at a distance away. Similarly, if you're recording horde vocals with multiple singers into the one microphone, it's perfect for the job. The cons of the condenser is that sensitivity to background noise. My first mic was a condenser, and I remember recording vocals in the summertime. I had to turn my AC off, otherwise it would ruin the recording. When I recorded the bridge with my dynamic mic, I actually had the AC running on full blast, and the tracks were still pretty clean. Since I'm recording in my home studio apartment, every now and then my fridge might start buzzing, the elevator goes off. Right now, there's a neighbor's carbon monoxide alarm on low battery beeping every 30 seconds. These uncontrollable variables will ruin most recordings by a condenser mic, while a dynamic mic's far more resistant, so you end up with a lot less retakes due to random incidences of these background noises. For these reasons, I think every home studio should have both a dynamic and a condenser mic. From a technical standpoint, I would prefer to use the dynamic mic wherever appropriate and switch to the condenser when needed, mainly due to how background noise is handled. It's just more efficient in recording. In practice, I'll probably play with this condenser a lot more since this is a higher end microphone and probably more versatile. If you only had the budget to get one mic, then I'd go for the condenser because I feel like it's really necessary for an acoustic guitar. A dynamic mic cannot reproduce what you can achieve with a condenser for these quiet instruments, while I feel that a condenser can work around its limitations and approach the utility of a dynamic mic if you're willing to put the effort into the production. There are some things that are unavoidable with a condenser, like natural reverb that you might not want to have. Personally, I think that's a plus. But combining two mics really gives you the best results. There are even cool effects you can get by using both mics at the same time. You can record a natural delayed reverb on your guitars or vocals by setting a dynamic mic up close and use that to capture the main track, and placing the condenser far away on the other side of the room and using that to record the spacier reverb. We know that the speed of sound is 343 meters per second, so you could actually calculate the precise distance needed to achieve a certain delay, which was what was done during the analog days. Or you could just cheat and offset the tracks however much you want. Anything's possible in the digital world. Anyway, I hope this was helpful for those of you looking to start recording at home. I'm going to follow up with a demo of the Mark IV condenser mic in the coming days, but so far in my tests, it's been producing an incredibly beautiful sound, and I'm very happy with this purchase.